Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the 8th episode of NeuroWomen Natter. I mean, Charlie, we're just saying, wow, it's been 8 months we've been doing this, and it seems like yesterday that we started it. So, just a quick description. I'm Toni Horn. I'm from NeuroEmpower CIC. Description of me: I've just had my hair done, so it's now short bob blonde with glasses, wearing a blue and white floral kind of dress thing. White individual. Charlie, over to you.
Hi, I'm Charlie Hart, also known as Awesome Charlie, and today my hair is long and straggly and I'm jealous of Tony's hair, and I too have my glasses on, and I am a white 49-year-old woman.
Oh, I don't like saying my age. You're braver than me.
We were the opposite way round last month, so
we was. Today we are going to be. We want it to be a little bit light-hearted today because, as you know, in these podcasts we tend to share, lived experiences between myself and Charlie, of being a neurodivergent individual and what that means. And today we wanted to bring a bit of light to it because we've all had these challenges. And what we're going to be doing is swapping those towels of when we've blurted something out wrong, which, it being autistic, ADHD, and dyslexic, may I add, is, some of the things I may have written in an email.
yeah.
We're going to compare those stories of some of the things that probably would have made us really cringe, overthink, overreact in the moment, in the workplace. But now we can look back on it and laugh, and we're still here, we're still standing, we're still going strong. And it's just about embracing some of those things that we may have done in the past. So, Charlie, what would you say? What's the one that really stands out for you that came to the top of your head when I said about talking about this subject?
Yeah. So I've got school examples of this and work ones, but one of the ones I often tell people about because I cringed at the time, but now it's funny. It's when I left Barclays. So I'd worked there in HR, helping with a voluntary leavers scheme. That's a redundancy, that's a downsizing. And then worked in IT for a bit for the Millennium Bug project. It was that long ago. And when my contract came to an end, I had a couple of shockables at lunchtime with some colleagues. So that's like vodka and Red Bull, but it's aftershock and Red Bull.
Ugh.
And then there was a presentation, a leaving presentation. And I said, and bear in mind, this is before I knew I was autistic and ADHD. And I said that it had been great, and don't worry that people would see me again because I would come back for all their leaving dues. Which, when you work in HR, is really not what you want to say because people are like, what? Does she know my name's on some at-risk register or something? And I could just see the ripple of shock go around the room.
All the
But it's
overthinking
like,
of everyone else.
yeah. And I never know, looking back now, I never know which of these things are to do with being autistic and therefore not picking up social cues and not coming across how I mean to, and how much of it is the ADHD impulsivity and lack of social inhibition. But it's the two together when you're ADHD like we are. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
How about
And
you?
yeah, no, totally relatable. And mine was also at Barclays. Funny enough, as you know, I was there for 17 years, and we was in a leadership meeting. And these meetings used to infuriate me. They really did, because no one would get to the point. No one would say exactly what they were thinking. And obviously, I've told you before, I'm quite high masking, so I wouldn't always just blurt it out. I'd always have strategies to kind of keep it in. But this one time, I couldn't keep it in, but I did it in a way that I said it to somebody else. So we're in this tense meeting, we're discussing things that, were working smoothly across the teams, and everyone was throwing in, really vague phrases like, oh, maybe it's communication breakdowns, or maybe it's team friction. And my brain instantly zoned into the actual issue, because what I thought was, in my view, was, the management. The management team was the problem, right?
Maybe it's bad leadership.
I was like, you're all just sitting there talking nonsense. It's the management. And I remember there was this lady next to me, and we've been talking all throughout. And I'd never asked her what she did. And as I was sitting next to her, I whispered, which I thought I was whispering to, you know, just a generic somebody else. And I went to her, well, we all know what it really is, don't we? It's the management team. And then she leant over to me and she went, note taken. And then someone told me later as we were talking, they were going, you do know that's the big boss's PA?
Ooh.
No, no. And I just remember yelling internally as this person had told me, because at the time there was no reaction. It wasn't until later. And I was like, oh, and I could imagine my brain was overworking all week going, is she going to say something to him? Is she going to say something to him? Is she going to say something to him? And it just replayed and replayed and replayed. But now obviously I can look back and it was funny. So
yeah, doesn't matter now, does it? It's not going to impact you in any way. But at the time, oh my God, we can really ruminate about things like this and lie awake worrying about it. Some of the things I've come out with when I've been at work parties with alcohol involved as well, and I wake up the next day and think, oh no, what have I said to? I clearly remember referring to the project manager of a particular project, who was finance director at the time, referring to her as a crazy megalomaniac bitch to some colleague. Yeah, someone at my level. But my volume control isn't very good. I'm not great at moderating my volume, and particularly after a few drinks. So I just woke up full of fear and dread about who might have heard it. The thing is, though, I could have justified that because she totally was, but you're just not supposed to say these things out loud.
Yeah, it's not politically correct in the workplace, is it?
Yeah.
That's all these hidden rules as well that you have to kind of think about. But when you've had a drink, you do unmask and
Yeah.
you do say things that particularly that you wouldn't do in a setting, because it does, I suppose it gives you that confidence, but it also reduces your inability to function that thinking part of your brain to say, I shouldn't say this out loud.
Yeah.
Um,
And it
and
can
I've
be
done it.
nice things. I mean, that same party, I think the communications manager, I think it was getting made redundant. So I liked her. I thought she was good at her job and a likable person. So I spent way too long gushing to her about what a travesty it was that she was losing her job and how much she'll be missed and how popular and well liked she is. And then went home and thought that was way too much, wasn't it?
Or you overshare. I've done this before where where I've always kept myself to myself, and then I found myself when we're in a drinking situation at work and I've just completely overshared far too much about my life, and then thought the next day, oh no, why did I tell them that? Now they know that about me. This is going to be really embarrassing.
Yeah.
And just dreading going into work knowing that they know certain things about you as well.
And you can't unsay it.
No, you
Yeah.
can't.
But I think if people overshare back, then it's okay and you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But if you give part of yourself away and then get nothing back other than maybe interest, maybe more than interest,
More
maybe some
questions.
probing personal questions, and you don't want to not answer them because you want to be polite,
Yeah.
and then you get nothing back, then you can wake up and think, oh, why did I do that? I shouldn't have said that. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I
absolutely.
don't even need alcohol because that social inhibition thing, I think that filter is a bit broken with me anyway, but it just definitely makes it worse.
Yeah, and the interrupting as well. I've noticed that my interrupting level heightens when I've had a drink as
Yeah.
well, but also when I'm passionate about something. So there'd be so many times in a meeting where someone would have said something and it's triggered something in me, and I'm like, no, hang on, this is not
Mm-hmm.
right, and I've just gone full in. And I remember one of my line managers, and I got on really well with her actually, and she would tell me as it is, and she said, you know, what made you want to kind of interrupt in that moment and say anything? And I went, because it's right. She said, I'm not telling you that what you said was wrong, because it's not. But you interjected when someone was trying to explain something. I said, but what they was explaining was wrong, and I couldn't hold it in no more. You don't understand that there's this explosive feeling inside you that just needs to blurt it out because it's wrong.
Yeah. Do you know, I think I am quite authentic and I have unmasked a certain amount, but that is the one thing that we all have to mask in order to work successfully with other people, and it can be a real challenge. And even in like this kind of thing, we're trying not to interrupt each other, but we really want to get our point across as well before we forget it as well, because the poor working memory just exacerbates that issue.
Absolutely. But my dyslexia as well has got me in some it's either got me into heat or it's just made situations funny depending on where it landed. And I did a post on it once about, I emailed someone and we'd done some really brilliant collaboration with each other. And I emailed them saying, like, you're 1 in a million. I absolutely love this. And then they sent me back an image of a minion. And I was like,
1 in a million.
why are they sending me back an image of a minion? And I'd said you're 1 in a million instead of 1 of a million. And I was like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. And lucky enough, they found it quite funny. They knew I was dyslexic. But that's my reality. I mean, this stuff happens all the time. There's like one time I signed off beast regards instead of best regards.
I've done best, and a word that we don't like to use in the disability advocacy community, instead of regards.
No.
So, I've never gone to the unsend email option so quickly in my life, because I always read it back. I send an email and then I always look at it in my sent box to read it like from the other person's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I do this and why I haven't learnt from my mistakes, but I send an email and then a couple of days, I don't know what it is, it triggers me to go and reread it. And then I go, look at all those spelling mistakes or grammar that I've sent. I don't have that now because of Grammarly, unless I'm emailing somebody that I particularly know. But back then, I didn't have anything. I just had spell check, and anyone who's dyslexic know that spell check is completely useless and doesn't understand our way of writing. And I remember reading once that I really disagreed with a strategy that someone was talking about. And I sent this fiery email back saying, I can't believe the concentration behind this decision. And what I was supposed to say is that the consideration. So and someone sent me back going, what is a concentration decision? Is it contagious? I remember going, no, that's not what I meant. But it actually became an office joke. It then became like a dodgy decision-making slang word for consideration.
Cool.
So whenever somebody made a bad decision, everyone was saying like concentration. And I was like, yeah, whatever.
You could invent some new jargon like that. But, some pink sky thinking, or what was I going to say? No, I've completely forgotten. There's the working memory issue, so it's fine. An anecdote of a blurt that I quite often talk about. So this isn't from before I knew I was autistic. I'd already been diagnosed autistic, and I knew that I'd got communication deficits, what they like to call them in the medical model of disability. But I knew that I was prone to saying the wrong thing, basically. So it meant that I was kind of on my guard going into high stakes conversations. And then the chief executive at Solicitors Regulation Authority, he liked to do like a little tea party at Harvey Nichols. So you hit, I think it was 10 years service. And your reward for that is to get invited to go for like a cream tea or something at Harvey Nichols with the CEO and a bunch of other people that had also hit 10 years service. This is meant to be a perk. To me, it felt like a test. Yeah. So the conversation turned around to tattoos, and he was saying he used to be really old-fashioned about colourful hair and tattoos, and that he'd kind of changed his mind, that people had changed his mind, people that are good at their jobs that have tattoos and colourful hair and that, and he'd kind of relaxed a bit on that. So I mentioned that the head of HR, Leah, who's a friend of mine, has a tattoo across her back. And then I immediately thought, I shouldn't have said that, because, right, I don't know. Like, I know this because we used to dress down in the early days. When we first started, it was a casual dress code. So we used to all wear jeans and crop T-shirts and things, but we were quite junior back then. And now she's the head of HR. And I'd sort of revealed she'd got a tattoo without knowing if it was common knowledge. And then I thought, oh my God, what if he thinks I've seen her naked? Yeah, like I'm openly bisexual and I'm talking
Yeah.
about a concealed tattoo of a female colleague who's now the head of HR. And oh, I was really cringing. But I've checked in with her since. Obviously, neither of us work there anymore. And she said, that's really funny. I wish you'd told me at the time. But yeah, I've said so many things where I've fretted about it for years. And do you know what? We're supposed to allegedly lack empathy. But if you lie awake at night worrying that you might have said the wrong thing and upset somebody or got someone into trouble, that is quite the opposite of lacking in empathy, I'd have thought.
Absolutely. Yeah, I overthink all the
Yeah.
time, and actually one of my overthinking, it spiraled because after there was a small understanding, I emailed my manager. We'd had this conversation, and I was really passionate about the subject, and I was going, well, we need to do this, da, da, da," and I was talking really fast and at her, but at one point in the conversation, she went, "All right, okay, I get it," and then
Mm.
instantly my brain went, "Oh, she's taken this the wrong way. She's taken it as in, I'm talking at her, or I'm being, aggressive with my point." And it wasn't. It was the fact that I was just so overexcited about this project. So then I emailed her saying, and I thought, oh, maybe I've said something, I've offended her. And I sent her this email saying, "Sorry if I offended you earlier." I got nothing back. And then sent, not that I meant anything offensive, because I was overthinking it. And then I remember sending another email going, I
Just
mean,
keep digging that
yeah,
hole. Yeah.
I'm sorry if there was any kind of like miscommunication. And then I sent another one saying, anyway, forget this. It wasn't a thing. Sorry again. So I must have sent her about 4 emails in a space, and I think she'd been in like a long team meeting, so she wasn't even replying to her emails, which again instantly was rejection sensitivity dysphoria kicking in. Was, why ain't she replying? Maybe I did say something. Maybe blah, blah, blah. She sent me one back going, "Stop! What's with you today? There was nothing. It was absolutely fine. I didn't take anything the wrong way. She was really nice about it, but it just shows you how you can spiral into
Yes.
this kind of overthinking, apologetic, just by what somebody saying one thing about your communication style in that moment. And I don't think people understand that, because
They
when I talk
don't.
about, they
Yeah.
don't, when I talk about workplaces about, be patient, listen with empathy. If somebody's excited about something, don't take their tone as an indication. Listen to what they're saying.
Yeah. Do you know what? I used to get this same piece of feedback again and again, that people come to me to ask me a question. Usually people that are senior to me, they've got quite an involved question. They're coming to me because it's about my area of expertise. But they're halfway through the question and they can already see the cogs whirring, and they can see that I'm chomping at the bit to answer them when they haven't finished formulating the question. And they tell me that because they think that it's a communication deficit on my part. And I'm thinking, well, they're just not getting to the point quickly enough. Yeah,
Just get
I've got a
to the
LinkedIn
point.
user that says they can totally relate to this. Yeah, and another Kate who says RSD is absolutely the worst.
Oh, isn't
Yes,
it
it
just?
is. Yeah, so it's a trauma response, I think. I know it gets called rejection sensitive dysphoria quite a lot in the
Yeah,
ADHD community, but
yeah.
to me, it's what happens when we've frequently been admonished for the way we come across,
Hmm.
and to an extent where we start to hear a criticism or a negative feedback and immediately start to have a trauma response to that and start trying to protect ourselves because we feel under threat. And that's how I look at it. I know RSD is very real, but to me, I'm acting out a trauma response that has come from all the criticisms I've had over the years, and desperate for people to like me and appreciate me
Yeah.
and not to think I'm an awful person who doesn't care about their point and their question.
I've also said as well, and I've written an article about this, that a lot of it comes from that. that negativity in education in childhood. You know, you're not trying hard enough, you need to do more, sit still, why aren't you concentrating? All those negative microaggressions against you constantly, which then people go, well, isn't that you know, self-confidence? Yeah, it does knock your self-confidence, but it hits that trigger part of your brain as, oh, I'm being rejected again, or I don't want to feel like that, and that's why we're people pleasers.
Yeah.
And that's why we say things like, you say yes to absolutely everything.
It's
I
the
do
fawn
now.
response to threat, isn't it?
Yeah,
The people
absolutely.
pleasing. So, you know, if it's really bad, I'll do the freeze response. But if I think I can put something right by apologising a lot or explaining myself in more depth, and if I've been overzealous and I explain myself in more depth, then it will generally make it worse. Because I end up dominating the conversation.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's that I say something sarcastic because I think it's funny and I haven't really thought through how it will land. But yeah, has anyone else ever put this in a leaving card? I'm sure you'll be missed, just not by me.
Have you really done that? Charlie,
No, I've wanted to. No, I have put.
You haven't.
If I've wanted to kind of say goodbye in a leaving card to someone who I'm glad to see the back of, I might put I'm sure you'll be missed.
So
but
I
I'll
just
say
don't
the
write in
next
them.
bit in my head.
If I don't like them, I don't write in them.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not writing in the card. Is that really bad? But there's another thing at work as well, you know, because cognitively, now this happens at home with Dave, and I told you, like, he'll ask me a question, and my brain hasn't caught up to what he's asking me. And I've described my brain some before, you know, it's a Microsoft 95. It hasn't quite caught up to the 365, so the wheel's still cogging. And he'll go, so why are you ignoring me? And I remember somebody at work saying, why are you ignoring the question? I'm not ignoring the question. I'm thinking.
Processing.
Yeah. It's not, you've not just asked me a question. And it really annoys me when somebody answers a question with a question.
Yeah.
And you can see, like, because I've got no facial
This
filter.
is why I can't go to talking therapy.
I've got no facial
And how
filter.
does that make you feel? Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, really? Just answer the question. Don't be political and ask me another question when I've asked you a question. Just say it outright. Say what you think.
Definitely. Yeah. So, like, if I talk to you or Lucy or someone that I'm close to about something I'm struggling with, and you would be more likely to say, wow, that sucks, are you okay? Rather than, and how did that make you feel? Or, and how could you have handled that differently?
Oh, don't. One of my friends is doing psychology at the moment, and she tries to psych me, and I'm like, just don't do it. If you want to be my friend, carry on being my friend. Don't do it.
Yeah, definitely. But I've blurted things out since school, and the memories I've got, like, you know, I have memories of being about 6 or 7, sitting in a school hall on the floor like you used to for assembly, and blurting out a punchline to an anecdote. And it's like I thought that people would be impressed if I know the answer, but no, you've got to let them tell the story or the joke or whatever, not leap straight to the end, otherwise it takes the wind out of their sails. But I just didn't understand that at that time, and it took way too long for me to get it. But when I was about 12 or 13, no, it might have been 14, in the middle of high school anyway, we did sex education classes, and the teacher said he wanted everyone to admit that they don't know anything about sex. But I'd read a book, a book aimed at 12 or 13-year-olds. So I thought I knew everything. Like, the Dunning-Kruger effect was really strong. So he was saying, put your hands up if you know all about sex, and I did. So everyone was taking the mickey out of me for that for months.
It does, doesn't it? I remember from a young, I think I was about 10, and my dad used to do photography, and he was teaching my godfather how to do photography. And I'd overheard my dad talking about how the eyes were too blue and that the contrast wasn't right. And Dell rocked up to the front door, And I opened up the door and just blurted out, by the way, your photography is not right. The eyes are too blue and it's blurry. And I
No.
remember my dad going, she didn't. I just hear him going, she didn't. She didn't just say that, did she? And he was like, come in, Del. And he was like, is that what you really think, John? And I was like, I think I'm in trouble. And then I kind of just potted off upstairs to think, well, I'm only being honest. You know, back then I didn't have, that's the thing, as neurodivergent children, we haven't discovered that filter yet. We haven't discovered,
No.
and the purity of that honesty, I absolutely love. I mean, the fact that one of my kids is so open and so honest, and so he tells you the truth. And I say to people, I couldn't ask for anything more. I know where I stand with him. If I wear something and he tells Mum I don't like it, I know he doesn't like it.
Yeah,
Mummy looks stupid, so Mummy's going to go and change, right?
I know.
And I love that. I love that pure way of being, of, you know, and it's just a tragedy that as neurodivergent individuals, we grow up to be taught not to be like that anymore. And I think that's
Yeah,
really sad.
I know. I like it. There's occasionally you'll see things on social media that satirize that by exaggerating it. So, like an advice to men if their girlfriend or wife says to her, "Does my bum look big in this?" that they should not only say no, but also look quite surprised and maybe step back a little.
I see one the other
Yeah,
day actually that was quite funny. So the husband said, she said, "Do I look nice?" And he said, "Do you want the husband answer or do you want the honest answer?" And she was like, "Well, I just want your answer." He was like, "No, I'll ask you again. Do you want the husband answer or the honest answer?" And she said, "The husband answer." And he said, "I think you absolutely look stunning. You look beautiful." And then she said, "Right, well, now I need to know the honest answer." He said, "I don't care what you wear."
yeah,
What's the honest answer? I love you. I don't care what you wear.
yeah,
And I thought that was quite, I think that was quite good actually.
yeah. That is great. Yeah, yeah. I couldn't ask Si whether I look good in something because he does not know how to answer questions like that at all. He only knows how to ask questions like, "Are you going to a 70s fancy dress party?" or something.
So you're like, I take that as I look like I'm out of a 70s sitcom then.
I got glammed up for a night out with the girls before I gave up on going out clubbing and things like that. I know I don't like it now. I have to drink too much for the sensory issues and the social issues. But when I did used to go out, I'd get glammed up. And one time I said, "Do I look good?" And he was very non-committal. And I got there and my friend said, "Did you know he stuck a post-it note on your back saying, married, 4 kids, several STDs, do not approach." And I took that as a huge compliment.
Yeah. You didn't want anyone else to talk to you. That's well funny. That's really funny. I like that. So if we're going to be finishing at 3, have we
Yeah,
got anyone in the audience that want to ask us a question before we finish?
yeah, or share your own experiences.
Yeah. I've
What's
got
the
a
most
flying egg behind me.
embarrassing thing you've ever said? No, no, they're not going to stick their neck out.
Then I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Do you know what? I saw there was a podcast called Neurodivergent Women Oversharing the other day, and I thought, we looked at so many names for ours, and that would have been so perfect.
For us too, yeah.
I think
Definitely.
it's the same team behind the Daily Tism, which is my absolute favourite social media account. No, yeah, good luck to them.
Yeah, good luck to them. And good luck to any and what I will plug it while I'm here as well. So we have a women's neurodivergent meetup that happens every Friday at the last month. So if you go onto my LinkedIn, there is a form that you can fill in. It's an open space for anyone to come and communicate, talk, share. The only one rule that I have is be kind and don't judge. And it's free. It's just a place for neurodivergent women to just come and have a conversation, connect, relate, or just simply listen if you want to, and listen to other people, you know, who may have similar stories as you. So
It's a
yeah,
very
go over.
friendly, mutually supportive little community, isn't it? Nothing
It really
scary.
is. It really is. So just go over to my LinkedIn, Toni Horn, and you'll find a post there with just a quick fill-in note, which has got like 3 questions on it.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's us. That's NeuroWomen episode 8 wrapped up.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Toni. So if anyone's got any suggestions what you'd like us to cover next month, we don't have a theme yet, so comment away and we will consider it. Just not politics or religion or anything like that.
No. This is a light-hearted podcast. No, nothing deep.
Moat says wave goodbye. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
We'll see you soon. Bye.